John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Maybe we should be at Beltane to light a candle for her.
Whole point is to help guide her spirit back to us. Doesn't matter where we are when we do it, really.
How long does it take before the Wheel of Time turns someone's spirit back into the world again?
Wish I knew. But I'm sure there's a reason no one can remember their previous lives. All we can do is the best we can with the life that's given to us. And take comfort from it. But no matter what happens, what pain we face, what heartbreak, even death, the wheel keeps turning. Always. We try again. Maybe do a little better than the last time.
Very importantly, we developed the concept of virtue and character. The ancient Greeks themselves did, and that concept was in particular elaborated by the Romans. And so you hear, I believe it's the philosopher Epicurus, amongst others, who said, your fate is your character. And I think what they meant by that in the early days, because in ancient times life was tough, what they meant is you might not be able to escape your fate. There were tyrants, and a tyrant might come into your city, and a tyrant might decide that he wanted to take your house for himself, and he might kick you out of your house, and a tyrant might even decide that you needed to be imprisoned, or the tyrant might decide that you should even be whipped. But you always could control your attitude about these things. The tyrant might try to break you completely and humiliate you completely. And the tyrant could control everything physical about your circumstances. But the tyrant couldn't control your sense of yourself and your sense of virtue. And by that, some of the Stoic philosophers in particular meant that the tyrant couldn't control the fact that in that situation, you're the virtuous one and he is not. And that no matter what the tyrant tried to strip away from you, he couldn't strip away your virtue. Now, I don't know if a modern psychologist would agree to that. People do succumb to tortures and to pressures, and the world might not be so clean. But we developed this notion that we have some control over our own lives, and it starts with what we think about ourselves. That's a deep conception, that we have the ability to change our lives by changing the way we think. Not every culture, not every myth accepts that.
Hey guys, welcome. Under Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth with you once more. The brat from down under is with you as well. So thank you for being here as always. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I do always say that, and I do always mean it. And everywhere you put your attention into any sort of teacher or investment of your time and energy and stuff, especially someone like me doing this, we should always be grateful for that investment in us and our perspective. So I say that because your time and energy and focus is very, very precious. So I'm doing that in an attempt to instill value in yourself, right? So you should value where you put your focus, what concepts you entertain, who you involve yourself and invest in, and all that sort of stuff. So I really am grateful for that, and I hope you have gained a lot from me. And this is another potent teaching for you as I come to you just before the December 21st, 2023. So if you're in the future, I'm doing this sort of on the weekend before that. But if you're here this weekend, again, in this very potent time, I thank you on top of everything else. So what I had planned to do for this release was do a real exceptional, highly focused one revolving around the Eieyani Massacre. I've been brewing it for obviously a long time, if you know what the title is, and it's a flow-on from Echoes 12, which I did about a month, 6 weeks ago, which was a very, very big release. It was over 3 hours, and I did that deliberately as being a very potent reference, because I know there's a lot of hardcore students out there that just devour my stuff, and it's more aimed at them and you guys doing GSF who've come through sessions and all that, or are on your game in your own organic process, coming to these conclusions now. So that was a really big release for me because there was a lot going on around that, and I'd isolated myself and healed for 2 weeks And just on the eve of that, I brewed a lot of original perceptions about what was going on and how things don't line up. But then there were some obvious things coming to me, and since then I've done quite a few more missions. I reckon since June 21st I've done about 25 to 30 GSF, bigger scale missions than I've ever done before. I just offer that when I say those things as a reference of what I've contributed to and what others, especially in the background, because I'm attempting to honor people that can't be public, or they're not ready for being public yet, or it's important that it's not known who they are, so targets aren't on their back, even that they've been on their back on levels that most people can't even comprehend. It's been a very interesting 6 months for me. And so I felt like rounding it out with a real epic Eieyani Massacre 22326BC. So 22,326 BC happened. And so this will be Echoes 13. Amplify the echoes of our soul's ancient truth. That's this theme that I'm on, alright? Just think about those words. Amplify the echo of our soul's ancient truth. Because to me, the reason why I do these videos is the privilege and honor of actually being able to share a perspective of what is my truth, whether you take it on board as your truth or not. Maybe you don't now, but maybe in 6 or 3 years time you will. Because sometimes I tend to be about 3 years ahead. So it's like, no way in this moment, but it's like, way, dude, way. Alright, so yeah, that Echoes 12 was very significant for me on many levels, because I came out of something that was pretty horrific after doing a lot of the missions, and then I poked my head up, my periscope up, if you use that language, to see what was going on around me, and everyone was smashed, and did a lot of work with the people that had come through this 6 months. So for me personally, being here is an epic achievement, but also all these things that I offer that I've been a part of, again, it's not about me or wanting you to see me in any way. It's just, it feels very nourishing to be able to contribute. And the reason why I'm able to contribute like this is, it's up to you to discern if I'm offering the truth. But for me, having a foundation of truth allows you to launch, alright? And so all these concepts that I've offered and the perspectives I offered are components that have taken enormous effort for me to discover and impart with you guys. So your journey is a lot smoother and quicker, and you don't have to go through all the trenches of all the variables that I've sort of gone through to understand what is going on. So a lot of what I say now is perhaps not in alignment with very much going out there, like the last video I did about Bitcoin, where I've processed a lot of variables and come to the conclusion that I came to. So if you've gone through that, it's about Bitcoin, it's about the concept of the variable of AI out there as being far greater, as I've got muzzies flying around. My appreciation of things and all the variables and people and individuals I've interacted with haven't found the answers, or the variables that they've offered haven't aligned to what I feel is out there. So I offer the perspectives I offer in an effort to address things that I may have been a part of, to impart falsehoods out there and stuff like that, alright? So this is leading up to your December 21st as well. So way I impart my stuff is an invitation for you to do a self-assessment of yourself as well. See how much you've grown and stuff. And the other really cool thing about me doing part 13 of this Amplify the Echoes of Our Soul's Ancient Truth on 22326BC, the Eieyani Massacre, alright? I started the Echo series just on the edge of 2021-22, which is almost 2 years ago to the day. And it's fascinating because after part 2, then sort of a variable into my world for the last 18 months, right? And to me, to come back to this now is to sort of take up where I was there, because as I invite you to value your time and effort and energy and stuff, and it's not about my age because I'm 47 and stuff, I invite you to contemplate that our mortality is used against us. So chewing up time and taking us down paths and all that sort of stuff, how many years do you think you are going to be super highly mega potent awareness on your truth path and stuff in your lives? You know, I don't know about you, but maybe 20, 30, 40 years, and you think that's a long time. But just look what's happened in the world in the last 2 years, and I've been doing a lot of reflection on those sort of things of where I'm at now, because the awareness is worth it, right? Having the awareness of what I've got, I feel, has been it's very nourishing to be able to navigate in this world with the context. You know, I show that context image all the time. I'll just show it quick, right? Dude, I know, say myself, when I started in the community and stuff, I was making bad decisions and bad trades and stuff. Where I'm at now, I feel like I'm in the flow, right? I'm able to navigate a lot better and choose the right path in this hectic, crazy, mixed up world that's still amazing. Like, Earth is incredible, right? And that's why it's such a battleground. That's why it feels very nourishing to know what's gone on, especially the ancient history that has led to now, which the Eieyani Massacre was a massive pivot point to contributing to how the world is now. And I feel like it's incredibly nourishing to know about this variable that went on 25,000 years ago that set us up for now. We lost control over the surface of the planet, right? And we've been on the run ever since to draw a line in the sand till now, because there was always going to be a crop of incredible beings that were going to still bubble up and get past all the barriers and all the efforts to derail and targeting and all that sort of stuff, that have the conscious potential to be here now to even challenge the reality and honor their truth of what's gone on by variables that absolutely are in the community that do not want us to know all this stuff, right? I'd talk about being a hen in a fox house, and I know I've been a Eieyani perpetrator magnet, right, for these frackers that have done diabolical shit to us in the past, right? And they're playing the false victims and never giving us the context of what's gone on, right? Because once we have that, we'll see through their facades of what involvement they've had in the past, let alone in the control now, right? Just on an intro of this, what I'm inviting you to do is measure yourself. Like, I'm offering my variables of my achievement and stuff. The reason for doing that is as a reference of the variables that I've been involved in, whether it's healings or contemplations or realizations or the missions that uncover so much once we've worked out all the frackery that's gone on, right? And then when we've cleaned up, and say one of the most massive things that worked out over this time was that, and this comes from interaction with one of my epic allies I've known for many, many years, right? Going back almost a decade or around a decade, is that with that person, and they were a big component in all these 25, 30 GSF missions, is that we worked out that Source is at its original moment of creation and gestating the possibility for conscious expression in the universe was invaded and inserted corruption, right? That's polluted us ever since. So we've never had, I'll show you the image, right? So we've never had a pure expression of the universe. You know, you imagine every frequency, every DNA and stuff has had corruption in it ever since, trickling down, going through all the stars, planets, and all that sort of stuff, right? So I've used the law as one as a metaphor here, and the law of one, it says that Source separate itself and create all the frackery to learn lessons and all that nonsense, right? What we established, and this is digging deeper and tracking everything back and working everything out, was that Source itself got corrupted by an invasion force right at the moment of conception. And so just think about that. If we've got no reference of what purity is, then we don't know, we can't identify the corruption, so we're being blinded, right? And it's potentially been in us and stuff. But what I'm inviting is one of the big victories, and it was with this individual as well. We fried Baal with 10,000 central suns, and this individual on August 20 came in and helped me, because mid-session I had an oversoul hack by the day that I released the Metatron GSF 27 in mid-session, targeting the person that was in session as well, who got mega targeted late in October as well. And that individual in March 14th, we did the 12D grid on Earth, which adding to that was clearing all the reverse seals that were put on all the stargates, alright? And I don't know if I've shared that before, but so one of the big founding concepts that we worked out over this last 6 months was Source itself was corrupted, right? And so if there's corruption built into anything, it's almost impossible to identify and separate, right? So that's what we worked out over this big period, this last 6 months, that probably should have never been, because going back 6 months I was under heavy attack, no idea that I was like a hen in a fox house again. My perception mechanics and assumption mechanics were all hacked, and I couldn't see, alright? And there's wiping tech that's put into us. If this is different, I just had mozzies. But yeah, when what I found, and this is reverse engineering the wiping tech, anytime you get close to the truth, it kicks in and keeps you in a daze and confused, alright? So wiping tech like the Babylon Massacre 22326BC tech can actually be installed in our energy bodies and stuff, and chips and implants and overlays and stuff, that anytime you get to the truth, it might kick in and leave you in a dazed, confused state, alright? So that's why I release videos with overlaps and repeated sort of concepts and clips, because I know this stuff goes on and it's tough to observe in yourself, right? But yeah, what I'm just offering about this pure Source thing is that we've never had a reference that that's where the original corruption and the foundation of all the infiltration that comes from. So with this individual who helped me, and then we kicked Saturn's butt August 20th, and then during September, with the help of galactic space whales travelling in their mouth, we went and took out Baal and 10,000 central suns, and some were corrupted as well, and they were shocked, alright? The 10,000 central suns kicked in to fry and destroy Baal, right? And the reason why I'm saying the 10,000 central suns is they're an aspect of our spirit team if you want to engage with them. And the basic structure of the universe, if you imagine 10,000 central suns as a network, it's like a foundation of the pure Source is out there and ready to work with us. And so Earth is this interesting battleground, and that's why one of the videos I talked about the Earth line in universal sand, right? And that's where, in my opinion, coming up with all this stuff and learning about this is why we're here. Amongst all this, with all the wiping and Babylon Massacre and the on an occupied planet, because the Eieyani Massacre 22326BC was a massive loss, right? And what happened to those people, or us, right, back then, okay, is what it's all about now. And it might feel like it's horrific and stuff like that, but in my opinion, I offered a post on Facebook, and it's on my servanttruth.org website, that it felt like the contrarian view was about to all flip, right? Because it was peak darkness, and darkness takes a lot of energy to maintain a trend, right? But truth and authenticity is very energetic, efficient and stuff. So we'll see what plays out. Like the financial markets are very interesting because it felt like they were bottoming out, and I was just offering that there was a pivot from my perspective, not just in the money, but in many variables of the line in the sand is drawn and we've had enough, alright? And so that's where it might be very interesting. You might be quite flat now and depleted and come through a massive journey this last 6 months, but I would say you're just like brewing the energy to launch on the other side of this, alright? So we'll just move on. So what I'm doing is just adding some context about how big this Eieyani Massacre sort of variable is. So what I was going to do is do this in an extension of part 13, which I highly invest in. It's deliberately a big release containing a lot of broad concepts, because I worked out from this, thanks to Sabrina Wallace, is that, and this blew my mind, coming from an IT background, and that's why I've offered that, and it seems it's a variable I'm going to bring a bit more volume to. Like I'm going to turn up the dial of the tech, the geek Andre back a bit, because it's blown my mind that they're using us as the internet, like they're routing the internet through us, and a lot of the illnesses and depletions and all that sort of stuff and targeting and all that, from thanks to the variable Sabrina, I've been able to splice up a lot of the influences and work out what's going on. And it's even interesting for me in my journey, like the instinctive aspect of getting onto my nutrition, and that this goes back 10 years, 15 years, right? Because nutrition was foundation to launch for me, right, to get the body right. I feel very fortunate I trust my instincts over that time and put all the components together that I have, because it felt like from a structural thing for the body, it's a antidote to all that stuff, right? But this is one of the really cool things. I don't think I've shared this, is that in one of the recent GSFs, probably in the last month, and this was after that Echoes 12, is that one of my allies, like we've got freaking epic reality authority, guys, right? You have to own it, embody it. A lot of people are like, ooh, too much responsibility, I'm not good enough, but when you step into that and accept that, you know, like that context flow sort of appreciation of the truth, just realize how rare you are. And if you don't step up and own it, then there's a gap, and it's just from a leadership point of view. If you see a vulnerability, then you step into it. It's not about creating a fellowship of minions and stuff, and especially hacking into them and then sending them out, you know, compromise to go at the people calling your bullshit out, sort of thing, which has been going on to me, right? And it goes on to many in the community that are aligned to all these sort of things, right? Because the invaders, they don't respect free will. They don't have to accommodate the rules of the universe because they're not from this universe, and they exploit that responsibility that we all take on board, right? But very interesting. I got totally white then of what I was about to say, so I had to stop and actually re-watch the video that I did. But this is a very cool thing, and I don't think I've shared this at all. And I was getting into the reality authority and stuff like that, because that's the thing, is there is a responsibility with the power and talents that people have and stuff. And the cool journey over these last sort of 6 months with these, I've sort of offered, I've gone a different strategy, if you will, of being less transparent and sort of sharing intel between sort of a group of highly aware people to get them up, to make them a foundation to launch on. Because a lot of them, particularly say one individual who had their rainbow tech stolen and stuff, they've all been epic beings through the Eieyani Massacre, and after the sort of clips that I show, I'll get into understandings I've had with doing sessions with people and what's been going on to them relative to the Eieyani Massacre. That's what I'm going to focus on in this video. But one of these beings, which is really cool, this is us being brats, alright, is, so if you have context of what's going on, and I've called it genocide juice, but it is that, but it's also putting people into the Internet of Things sort of thing through the body and all that. And all the illnesses and that is like handshaking of trying to get the tech going and heavy metals in our world and all that sort of stuff. But so what we did, and this is the level brats we are, is, okay, graphene oxide, well, how about we change the properties of that material in this world? And so we're just like, well, how about we change its properties so it's no longer magnetic and it doesn't allow electricity or electric conductivity, alright? So we just made it inert, alright? So, and then when we did that with alignment with Earth, because we're working on behalf of Earth, who hasn't been able to get through on the surface of the Earth, we just nullified and sent a ripple out around the world that graphene oxide no longer can be magnetic or transfer electric current through it. All right, so that's a new reality. All right, and it was like that's brats. All right, it's like you can't do that on our planet. You know, do you think Earth wants people to have codes or this done to us? No, we represent her. And we check with her if she's okay, and she's like, why haven't you already done it? Right. It's like, ooh, okay. Reality authority, sorry, forgot I had that role. But, so yeah, that's one of the things we did. We deactivated graphene oxide from being able to be magnetic or transfer electric current between itself. So we were going to make everyone have a big dark crap, right? And crap this stuff out and put carbon into the world so the trees can all thrive and nature can thrive off carbon, right? So it's interesting. I was getting wiped, and I'm allowing myself to go in the flow of this because it's important for you guys to know that there are victories been going on for us and structural levels of a massive scale to corner these frackers in and just squash them, you know. You might not like my attitude or my savageness and stuff like that, but these frackers, they've had a massive multi-dimensional perception edge over us for a long time, alright? And a lot of the attitudinal concepts, and I might show you that awesome Jeffrey Mishlove clip about attitude, because a lot of the clips I offer about attitudinal training, like you think about your attitude, it's an aspect in your tool belt that you can engage at any time. If you think all the clips are about me and stuff, then that's cool, but I'm offering them as you can embody those attitudes at any time and embrace them and apply them, just like as an antidote to everything going on about you. To like emotional mastery from me is a massive foundational component. That's why I've built that series and stuff and offered it to you. Because if you engage the attitude, you're embodying certain emotional mastery components in the same instance that might be the thing that gets you through a tough time and engage your energy field as a defense, alright? To say, not on my freaking watch, scumbag, alright? Because we are the authorities, guys, alright? But we just haven't known it because of the spiritual community that's been gestated by the controllers from a massive power. Right? And that's where I might sound harsh towards aspects out in the community, but I feel we should be able to have a expression out there in society that is the epitome of society, and I felt like going into the spiritual community was an aspect of that. When it's been the most epic battleground there is, like I haven't done nutrition and stuff for a while, but there's this guy Paul Chek, and one of the awesome lectures I refer to is the dirt facts. He talks about soil and stuff, and they talk about what's going on in the mitochondria and stuff in the soil, like all the bacteria and that, and it's like absolute carnage down there. And it's on a multi-dimensional, because most people don't have that perception. What people portray, like these invaders, like I said, it's been like we've been hens in a fox house, and these foxes, like frackers, portray themselves a certain way in the 3D 5 sense, but I can assure you on the multi-D they're absolutely disgusting and all sorts of craziness has gone on, right? So with all this sort of intro, what I'm intending to do with this video, and what I was intending to do with the Eieyani concept, I was really brewing, I felt, an ideal time to share what really happened and when Eieyani offers that back in Hawaii in 2001, and Echoes 12 at the end. I rounded that out with just leaving you on the hook a bit about it. So when I was brewing this video, and I have been brewing it for a while, because it's a massive topic, that just the sheer absence of it in the community, that should be evident that maybe it isn't true, maybe it didn't happen, or maybe the vast majority in the community do not want you to know this or have no idea about it because it's so suppressed as a aspect of our past. Because as soon as you hear it and you know it, it unlocks so much in you. You put so much into context, and then makes so much sense why everything is like it is, because the clips I sort of share with Asher are to offer that it's been a bit of a stalemate and for the last 25,000 years, but the stalemate is we lost this control of the surface, right? And it was brewing the 25,000 years until sort of now, which we're all bubbling up, coming back to the awareness of coming through this world that's been a colonized planet from my perspective, and we're gone through the incarnation war just to get through whatever way and stuff. Like one of my allies said, I came in 6 years late because I just couldn't get in. Right? So this expression of me was a fallback of a fallback of a fallback, and my guess is you all, if you're here, it's all your story as well. And I'll just offer you this at the start of this intro is, you know, when I started this Echo series, I was talking about twin flames and stuff like that, how it was talked about being just a nonsense, potentially, perspective in the community that had no reference. But then what I offered, based on coming across the Eieyani Massacre, going hardcore into Asher 2 years ago when I rediscovered her, right? Because I found her during the Project Camelot time in 2010. Early on, it was just too much, and I really, as I say, I really reflect myself of why I didn't accept it. But with all the context now of all the influences and wipings and stuff like that, you know, it makes total sense just to get here, and you individually get here is a massive achievement, right? So what I'm getting to, the first two, and I said it was going to be a bane of my existence, talking about twin flames and stuff, and offering it the Eieyani Massacre, and you know, there is all this want to be a bigger story of ourselves. Like one cool movie, which I haven't used clips for yet, is when I grew up, is that there was this awesome movie called The Last Starfighter, and it was like you play video games to qualify to become a starfighter and take on the universe of evil and shit. And we've all got that longing to be recognized and sense there is something bigger than ourselves. And a lot of people have that romantic notion of there is someone out there and all this sort of stuff. And I appreciate that. You know, I've experienced unconditional love in a relationship. I know how potent love is, and having a partner and stuff. And so crossing that romantic notion over time, if you've watched 47 Ronin as well, where it's like the end scene is like, I'll search for you for 10,000 lifetimes and stuff. It's all very nourishing to think that there is a match or partner out there and stuff, and that sort of that drew, like, doing those two releases, that sort of, I know what it did. It raised the alarm because I was about to get into an angle of all this stuff, including Sabrina and stuff, and that's where, ironic, the perpetrator kicked in. The Eieyani perpetrator kicked in, right? Because to me, they were going to get busted. So I was a threat, all right, bringing all this stuff out, right? Because I wasn't meant to be here, and I wasn't meant to be here now after the last 6 months, right? But yeah, that's what's gone on. So that you got to watch out for the false victim or the false Eieyani victim when they've actually been the worst fucking perpetrators there are. And I've got a new word that I'm going to try and use. I was calling bullshit artists and stuff. There's this word I've come across, poppycock, right? I'm going to... I was watching Elementary. If you watch the other videos, I've sort of included clips from Sherlock and stuff, and he used it. And then I had another guy that I've sort of discovered recently that I've been enjoying, and he used it as well. So I've had a couple of references of poppycock. So it's a bit better language than bullshit artists, right? But I think Aussies swear so well. So, and I've got some family heritage on swearing, which I'll share at some point as the birds are chirping loud and agree. You guys wanting me to swear, eh? But getting into this twin flame thing and stuff like that. And this is what I worked out about the Eieyani Massacre, right? This is going to blow your mind before I get into the clips. Is how can I explain this? So when you hear the Eieyani Massacre stuff and this idea that we have a partner and we're dual soul and having a lover and all that crap, you know, is how it's meant to be and stuff. This is what I got. So if you've really paid attention to that last video, Echoes 12, where I add a lot of context of the Lemuria and stuff like that, right? So I did that deliberately to give all the context, and then I brought the Specie in because what I worked out is they're using all this Internet of Things to hack us, to not only monitor us and watch our consciousness and hit us if we start bubbling up, sort of thing, target us and that, but it's also to harvest our codes and DNA codes, which has been a massive realization this last 6 months. And it's funny, like I've had conversations with other people that are very much Eieyani and been through it all, but again, like I say, that wiping, and again, like the Kundalini harvesting sort of stuff that was going on with me. And I'm going to show you a clip about a collaring, because it goes on your Kundalini as well. These invaders have been doing it to many people to harvest your energy, right? Because one of the epic allies out there gave me a heads up of the season 2 of The Wheel of Time, and I'm going to include some clips that, yeah. So I'll talk about the clips in a sec, but this is what I got about the Eieyani Massacre, right? And if you should go back and really re-listen to Echoes 12 and pay attention to what I'm saying, because this is me and my pattern recognition, and this goes back to the corrupted source, right? Because it's all being corrupted all the way down to set us up for failure, and for the invaders to just walk in, you know, uninhibited and stuff, and just take over and feed us into the weeds of that universe and stuff, which has been the bane of our existence for a very long time, and the multiverse, I would say. So what I got, right, there's a movie called The Grey Man out there, and it's about this agent and stuff. In that, there's this psychopath that they engage to take down this guy. He talks about relationships being pressure points, right, and vulnerabilities, okay? So the reason why I'm just offering that is what I realize is, if we observe the whole Eieyani thing and this twins soul sort of thing, and I'm going to include clips of Asgard from the Thor movies, because to me Asgard is a metaphor of the Eieyani in Hawaii, right? Like the oasis that was the last bastion, and the dark world, the second Thor movie. I'm going to include clips where it was invaded, and it's very metaphor of the Eieyani Massacre, right? And Loki, you know, it's fascinating. Loki is given a series on Disney, and he's seen as sort of a decent dude, but yeah, I don't see him as a good guy at all. And I might try and include some other clips of another series that has Loki as a Roman general and stuff, but this is a big thing, and this is what I'm getting to. And this is I'm gonna invite you to see, this is pattern recognition and seeing bigger and having all these variables for context, is, to me, whole gestation of the Eieyani, the needing twin souls, was a setup for failure. Like, to me, the even brewing of that concept of an expression to come through to be the antidote was a part of a total setup for failure. Like, you look at what happened, thought it was going to be easy. It was totally set up on many levels. So just see that that's a really big concept to offer, that the whole Eieyani structure was designed to fail in itself and set up all this, right? And so that's how epic and badass we are to even come through that, to come through now, to even have this time to at least fortify ourselves, to be this line in the sand of saying no more, right? And that's where all you guys that have come through, whether it's sessions or GSF or, a lot of people have potentially fallen off with me and stuff like that, and that's all cool. It's all going to flip, right? Just trust me. Because when we offer the truth of what's going on, it's going to blow people's minds, because the falsehood is just, it's done, right? It's peak falsehood and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I just want to invite you to contemplate that about the Eieyani, because if you know about the Ashana, it's 208,216 BC, right? That's when we lost 12D. And so everything was a step down from then. And then the last sort of 25,000 years with the Eieyani Massacre and all that on the Earth and stuff. But even from the universal level, it's just like, oh yeah, we failed, blah, blah, blah. To me, we've never had that reference of the corruption of the source level of things. So we don't know. And it was, it's nothing to be laughed at, thinking that, it was an obvious mistake. It's these frackers are very, very skilled, right? They're not to be messed with. They're not to be taken lightly, trust me. Like, the people I've dealt with have epic skills, particularly like the individual that got the rainbow codes back, right? What we worked out is, in that session, that they'd been taking holographic representations of all of us for the last 10 or 15 years and trading them through the 125 negative species, particularly like the frickin' mantis beings. And even like that whole era with Andrew, I realized the mantis were messing with me through someone and sabotaging me and hacking into me and putting J-seals into me and stuff. It took me 11 months to work out that, and it was many months into the Asher stuff that I put all that together and stuff. But now I can just see with hindsight, and they're very nasty out there and stuff, but they're just one of the 125 species negative that are doing shit, that are being, these guys are being, I called it outsource the dark. Like, in the reality they get away with it, but they've been trading for energy and stuff to do all this frackery to us and stuff. And that's why it's been crazily hard, especially if you step out from their control. And I'll get into it after all these videos and stuff. But so I just want to offer that as a big variable that I worked out in these last few months, is that to me the Eieyani was already set up for failure. And so you guys that have that romantic notion of, seeking another half and all this sort of stuff, it's good luck to that. But I would say it's a vulnerability that you just need to really, my thing is, you master yourself, you be GSF, then everything is possible. And if each individual does that self-mastery, then who are you going to be the match to and stuff like that. And that's where I've got that image, and I'll show you it just now. This is an evolved image, and I've shown you many times, but to me, I'm getting people that are beyond all this stuff, right? And so I've gone through this big transformation and invested heavily in myself, done more healing on myself and stuff to break free of this stuff. And a lot of people are still caught up, and it's very interesting because I have had variables that haven't gone the paths that, say, most of you have gone to find me and being around me. They're independent, but they're giving me variables that the invader network is far more extensive than what we've appreciated. It is very, very solid, and so yeah, like, this is what it's about to me, and this is why it's been very rich and stuff to work all these things out, right? To have an understanding, to be able to launch with the foundation of truth, right? So with this decent intro, I'm going to get into some videos, and as as I've tried to explain with this long offering of a lot of variables and data points and stuff, is that I did have an intention of offering a very big Eieyani Massacre before the solstice, because the Eieyani Massacre needs to be talked about lots. It needs to be appreciated and you know, with the wipings that are going on with people that they don't know. Offering a few reference points to measure yourself of what happens with your body with this truth, right, from my perspective. It's fascinating what may unlock, especially this time, especially after all this stuff, with all this foundational GSF stuff that, say, I allude to, which I might talk about later as well. But yeah, I was brewing a really big video with continuing on what I did with part 12. But what happened with me was I've been feeling so good, and we've talked about a lot of disclosures in movies and stuff like that. So I was just reviewing the clips I've got with Asher, and was going to offer an intro with Asher and then get into that meaty part that I sort of say, offering where she first offered it. But then I was sort of weaving a lot of really cool clips together. And as I said, someone gave me a heads up about the Eieyani Massacre being disclosed in some components of The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime Part 2, or Season 2, that's come out. And it's funny, I've talked to quite a few people about it, and they just got blocked to seeing that. And then I told them this, and then they've gone and watched it, and it's like, wow. So what I was doing is my keyboard ninja with all the clips and stuff, and weaving some stories together and stuff. And what turned out was the intro video with those clips was going to be really long, plus the other part. So what I'm actually going to do is actually offer those clips to help you see that this story about the Eieyani is being weaved through our history, but it's never had the reference of what actually went on. But a lot of teachers and stuff, and interpretations in stories and movies and all sorts of stuff for a very long time, and you probably got more. It's a very consistent story with all the pillaging and all that sort of stuff, if you've gone through the Asher recordings on my website and stuff. So what I'm going to do is do a decent Ashiana clip again with when she talks about this and the perpetrators, Thoth involved and stuff. And then I'm going to do something really cool with weaving all these clips together, and I've done quite a few now. I may aim to do some more and make it quite elaborate before I do the release, and they take a lot of time to do and stuff, and hunt down and that, and I love doing it. Like, I love investing it, but I think this will be very rich and a unique expression. You know, I love offering those clips, like I said, attitudinal sort of stuff, but I think this, as an interesting main body, will add more depth to this, and it might fire up that perception mechanics and pattern recognition of you realizing you've probably explored many teachings over your life that even I haven't come across, and they might add more depth to this, and it might really be a potent resonance and anchor to engaging that dormant, lost memories of your truth on the soul. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you with this, right? And I'm going to come back and talk about some of the experience I've had with people with the Eieyani, you know, from a practitioner level. And then what I might do is offer another clip of Asher, and then I'll talk about some GSF stuff that I've been in, that put it all together again with the allies and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is leave you here with this awesome section of clips and stuff, and hope you get a lot from it, and I'll see you on the other side, guys. Enjoy.
The history here is a riot, but it's also sad. And what's really sad is the little bit of it that has come down through what we call the Bible, and there's some little bits of it in the Koran and those kind of things. There's little bits here and there. But we get into the Atlantean conspiracy. I'm going to run down, we've mentioned some of these events as went through the first part of that. This is going back a little bit further. Now, some of the Atlantean history is in Voyagers, Volume 2 as well, where it tells how Atlantis was first a large continent, and then certain things were done with the Illuminati races that created major implosions of their massive crystal pylon technologies. That ended up sinking portions of the land and literally sucking part of it down in the Phantom Matrix. Well, the reason I can't find a lot of it, like where is that continent? Because literally it demanifested through the grids and was pulled into the black hole system. So they're going to have a hard time finding all of Atlantis because part of it's down there. Now, Atlantis turned into an island community, large islands, and they were Lohas up in the northeast. There was Brua, Atlantis, down in the south, a little bit west, and there was Nohasa. The whole Noah story came out of Nohasa, Atlantis, and the Illuminati race lines that were coming out of there. When we get into this history, we start to find out what the Exodus was about in the Bible. And you know what's so sad? This is one of the things that I just feel so bad for the Jewish people, because they have been conned into believing that was them. It wasn't even a Jewish Exodus. It was the Hyksos, Knights Templar, Illuminati, Leviathan races that were getting kicked out of Egypt by a competing force of draconian Illuminati races. The history here has been so twisted. So we're going to start to unravel that twist, because these twists are in our memory banks on a race level, which means they're in our DNA as twisted codes. They're also in our radial bodies. The radial body is a part of our 15-dimensional anatomy that, you know how we've talked about Hoover bodies, those, circles of energy around us, the three-dimensional egg-shaped spheres of energy around us. Well, around each one of those, there's something called a radial body. The radial body is created, it is formed of what are called muons and trion units. They are pre-light, pre-sound units. The radial body becomes very important. Planets have them too, universes have them, harmonic universes. The radial bodies hold the memory imprint of a person or a species or a planet. The distortions that we have now in our DNA template, thanks to the planetary grids, have totally distorted the natural pictures, memory pictures, the digital coding that would give us our natural memory. That's why we don't remember any of it, and they've progressively been recoding it to match Nibiruan memory. So by the time we got in here, they got back in here, we would simply look at them and know them as if they were our creator gods. So this whole thing comes back to, if we learn this history, we see what's being done, we can unravel what was done. We can unravel it in our minds, but also in our gene codes, which means we're going to heal our radial bodies through bringing these frequencies of the true history records in. It'll help to heal the memory twists and the blank spots that are in our radial bodies. By doing that, we'll be able to run more frequency. And when we can understand what has been done here, that's the only way we're going to understand how we can fix it. How is a round table going to fix all this mess, and how is all this mess related to, the pieces of it? How are they related? So we're going to find out about that as we progress through the history. We'll go from the history into the technologies that we're used to do this, and into what we can do to begin a process of healing it. Now, what's interesting is where that reading left off, we've been given a lot more information since last September. We will learn something about the 10,500 BC period. That has to do directly with Philadelphia Experiment and Montauk Project. Has to do with wormholes. That becomes a very significant element of understanding the history and understanding what we have to do here. There's also another part of the information that was given in October, I believe, that has to do with APIN systems, which are Atlantean Pylon Implant Network systems. They're like microchip grids that are literally implanted all through our planetary grids and the planetary shields. And there are a whole bunch of competing ones that at this point, they are coming into activation, and through the United Intruder Resistance, because everybody's putting their grids together to try to combat the Founders races and to stop the Christos realignment. This is what we are literally being hit with. Frequency fence. We are in the middle of an attempt to create a global frequency fence at this point. The round table that we're doing here, and I had no idea until they gave it to, the rest of the security data to me this morning, has to do with making it very difficult for that to happen. Because if the world, if the planetary grids start to carry what's called a frequency fence more than they already have, it will stop the DNA activation that would normally be occurring in people, which means all the frequencies that are still coming in can't process through the DNA, so it'll make people sick progressively. Now, the Atlantean conspiracy progression to major events. We'll start with 50,000 BC. But things were going on and going wrong way before that. If you remember, we talked about yesterday 208,216 BC as we entered the evolutionary dark cycle, because that's when D12 current could no longer anchor into the planetary grids. There was so much damage to the grids. So from then, it got worse. There are periods that I think we reviewed very briefly on one chart. I think it's in this book. It was some of the more recent data, where it explains there was literally a period between, I believe, 148,000 BC and 75,000 BC, where humans literally lived in subterranean civilizations because the Anunnaki races had come in force and taken over the surface. They were literally on planet. And then there was something, I believe it's 75,000 BC, I have the exact date in the other text, where it was something called the Inner Earth Rebellion, where the races from Inner Earth opened the portals and came up, because the Anunnaki races were starting to go through, trying to break through the portals of Inner Earth to raid there too, to get the halls of Amente. So the Guardian races literally all got together, and some of the Illuminati races that didn't like the Illuminati ones that were on the surface all got together, and they prevented them, and they kicked the Anunnaki off the planet temporarily. So there has been this long history that goes back way longer than this, and we're just talking third seeding history. Remember, we were seeded here 250 million years ago after the fall from Terra 550 million years ago. There were huge amounts of history that have to do with seeding one that culminated in the electric wars and total destruction of the races where they had to be reseeded. There's a huge history of seeding two. Some of that history is touched on in the Voyages Volume 2 book, so I don't try to incorporate it into this because it is somewhere else. But this is just seeding 3 history. And this is the history that'll wake up our DNA template and our tribal shield with its original D12 coding. When we start to remember this and we start to see the sequence, feel the frequency sequence, and see the sequence of events. Now, Phantom Matrix, as we talked about yesterday, started way before any of this. The Phantom Matrix is what was created 250 billion years ago during the Lyran Elohim Wars, when Stargate 12, Universal Stargate 12, was originally blown up, and part of this time matrix grid literally was put into a black hole subtime distortion system. So the Phantom Matrix this is where all these fallen angelics are coming from, and it has a huge bearing on Earth history as well. They don't talk about it. In fact, they didn't introduce the full concept of Phantom Matrix, until the most recent information that was given after October of last year. So we'll integrate that in as we go. 25,500 BC, there's the Luciferian Rebellion that we talked about. The Nibiru and Marduk Anunnaki, they're Anunnaki plus Omicron Draconian. That's what Marduk Anunnaki is. They're the Anunnaki races plus, it's a hybrid, plus Omicron Draconian races. They seized control of Nibiru and the D4 Solar Gate. They began Anunnaki race unity campaign. So it was, all of a sudden, they were trying to bring together all of the Anunnaki races into a Dominion campaign. Let's all take the halls of Amente together, the false unity thing. All right, now, okay. They tricked a bunch of the Atlantean Anu Melchizedek races into believing that they were doing a unity movement. Reminds you of anything happening today? They tricked them into it. And they were, spaceships were coming and going at that point. There's lots of visitation, and many, even some of the human races got tricked into the deal. They actually thought the Anunnaki were entering Emerald Covenant and it was actually going to work out. What they did was they brought in a technology that was supposed to assist in restoring the grids more quickly. Now, the Founders races and the Magi Grail lines were telling the humans and the Anunnaki Leviathan races that weren't corrupted yet, don't do this. Don't let them bring these in. It would have started Star Wars if they were tried to be, if force was allowed to be used to stop them. If the Founders came in or sent some of their troops in with spaceships, they would have had Star Wars and the place would have rolled again. So that kind of intervention wasn't an option at that time. This is where humanity is living a part of its karma, because it allowed something to take place. It allowed a technology to be brought here that involved more pylon crystals, big ones that are like, you think of the Empire State Building, the size of that. Well, there were many pylon crystals that size and some of them bigger. These were massive instruments of running frequency and running scalar frequency. Well, they brought them in and they put a grid here and they put a grid in parallel Earth on coordinate locations. Where they put this grid was that there's a frequency line or a ley line that runs between Q-Site 11, that is in Ireland, and Stargate 11, that is in England. They put this right in the middle of that line, so it could supposedly begin to draw energy from Stargate 11 to supposedly give them more power for their technologies. What it did was, right at that point, begin to reverse any currents that would come through Stargate 11, or through Q-Site 11. So it would make Stargate 11, once it activated in the stellar activation cycle, it would make it activate on a reverse current, which would mean all the others would begin to spiral in reverse, which means the whole thing would get, the whole planet, the Merkaba would completely reverse, and the planet would get taken down into the phantom matrix. This was the real reason they brought their nice technologies in and wanted to do a unity movement. So, yeah, nice people. So these guys down here, during this period, there's a major period of setback for the Guardian races, because right here was the stellar activation cycle they were all aiming for. That was the next one. There was one around 75,000 BC when they had the Inner Earth rebellion and all that kind of stuff. Every time a Stargate cycle was due, it was war. Every time here. The ones that got passed over at least were more peaceful, where the planet actually couldn't hold a stellar bridge grounding. But the ones that had any potential of having the gates open, it was always the fallen angelics raided trying to get a hold of a Mente. 22326 BC. See, this apparatus was supposed to have this be the grand finale. This is where, in this stellar activation cycle, this is where the fallen angelics were very convinced they had so much control here that they were going to take the hulls of a Mente. Earth would go on a pole shift, they didn't care, to get pulled down into Phantom Matrix. It would end up as a satellite of Nibiru in Phantom Matrix. Like a satellite planet, it would get caught in Nibiru's orbit. But they would get control of Inner Earth as well and the hulls of Mente stargates, and then continue their quest up literally through the whole universal structure in this time matrix. But the Eieyani Massacre was the situation where I talked about a bit yesterday, I believe, where I talked about Thoth and how Thoth had been entrusted as an Emerald Covenant representative, and he was given CDD Plate 11 to translate, and how he defected. He not only defected and translated part of CDD Plate information, which gave grid mechanics and locations, part of the Book of Maps and Keys. He gave to the corrupt Atlantean priest caste, who were the Anu, Melchizedek, Leviathan races, so they could assist the Nibiruan races to finish their invasion here. Thoth went over and joined the Unity movement, and he literally led invasion teams to various parts here. The main invasion team that was led by Thoth was the one that created the Eieyani Massacre. The Eieyani were the name of the Indigo races, the Magi Gray Line races that were on planet at the time. There was a whole group of them. They were a very specialized group that were literally ascended masters who would come directly in from the sound fields into bodies. They were specifically there to finish the Christos realignment mission then. It was decided that in this period it had to be done because there was so much of Earth's shields that had been pulled into the Phantom Matrix. They had accreted almost equal critical mass, which means as they continued to pull energy from the planetary shields here, it would begin to, there wouldn't be enough energy here to hold the rest of the shield. So literally the whole planet was going to go if they didn't complete the Christos realignment mission, which would close off the Phantom Matrix to the Earth grids. So they had come in as a specialized team. They had come in on what's called Q-Site 12, which is the activation site for Stargate 12. Where's it? Stargate 12 is the gate that's in France. So the Q-Site 12 was located in what was Lemuria, what's now Kauai, Hawaii. So this group of them came in and they had what's called a hidden city. It was literally put under kind of like a scramble field. You know how when they kind of make people's faces scramble in a TV program where you can't see exactly who they are? Well, it's a distortion field that makes whatever inside of it invisible. It's a cloaking field. They had a city under there in the area of Kauai, Hawaii. The Eieyani races did. Thoth was trusted to come into this city and to move back and forth because he was considered a trusted representative of the Emerald Covenant from some history before that we'll talk about. He led the Nibiru and Marduk, Luciferian invasion teams in, and they captured a bunch of the high-coded females. Now, all of the Eieyani were in gender twin pairs, which means they all came in together with their literal, like, Akkadic level twin, where they were one at the Akkadic level, and they came in, when they were in bodies, they became two, but they were literally half of each other. You couldn't hold all of their consciousness in one body. And the Anunnaki races, under the direction of Thoth, literally made a deal. Said, we'll either kill all of you, or if women, you want your men to survive at all, You don't want us to capture them and take them over to Atlantis where they're torturing people in the pyramids and stuff, because they were at that point, Atlantis was totally corrupted by them. You will come with us willingly. They wanted the women for their high gene codes, because those gene codes had the highest level of the security codes to the planetary grids. So a bunch of the women went to Nibiru with them and got trapped in all sorts of messes where they were literally chained to slabs and raped until they were pregnant, and the babies would be delivered and then they'd be put there. They would literally kill them that way. But meanwhile, they created a whole bunch of babies that were coded with the Eieyani gene code, but that did not have Eieyani souls in them. They had the fallen angelic souls in them. There is a time, and women who were a part of this cycle, literally all women, bear part of this pain in their karmic imprint, because it affected everyone, but especially indigo women, have an imprint there where there's almost a hatred toward children. It's not children here, but there were so many of us that wanted to literally kill ourselves, and we couldn't because we were chained. They knew we would try to kill ourselves. Because the children that came out of our body, it was like the Rosemary's Baby movie, and that's how we felt about it. We knew they were creating an invasion for us, and they were using our body vehicles to do it. So talking about having a hard time loving your child, the body form came from you, but the soul in it had nothing to do with your child at all. So there's this whole cycle of pain there. Meanwhile, they betrayed the women, and they went after the men anyway. And they took a bunch of them, the ones that were no use to them because they weren't the highest coded ones, they just killed them. But the ones that had the highest codes, there were certain technologies that they had in the Atlantean temples that they could use to plug you in to like a computer network. It was a little different than what we have. It was run on Scalar tech. But they would plug them in, fry their circuits completely, but they would be able to download their cellular memory. So they could get records in digital form that could be then translated. So they could literally pick your cellular memory with the technologies they had. And they did this with the men that were most valuable. There was nobody left to finish the Christos realignment mission. They took out all of the Eieyani, and they literally had to restart the Eieyani race line after this period to get the indigos back on planet with the security codes in their DNA templates. And if you want to understand why I don't have much of a problem talking out about Thoth, I don't care what good he did. I see that, and you'll see some of that as we go along in the history. But whatever good he might have done does not excuse what was done here. Because what was done here set in motion a whole series of events that has gotten worse and worse and worse. And this is supposed to be the going in for the kill period. We're sitting in the middle of what they were planning. This whole thing was planned. Now the plan got more formalized as we move forward in time from here. They made a very large headway in getting control of the grids here. They got rid of the Eieyani for a while. But what they didn't do was they didn't fully get a hold of Amente because the founders shut the higher gates from the higher levels, and it created a partial pole shift. They knew it would. They evacuated as many of our guys out as they could find. But they allowed pole shift to happen to shut the gates so the invasion couldn't continue. And that made it a stalemate till the next stellar activation cycle. And that's where both sides were planning how they were going to handle that stalemate. How in the next stellar activation cycle was this going to, move forth? How was it going to manifest? We're in the middle of that stellar activation cycle now, or at the beginning, moving toward the middle.
You're not a prisoner here, Cal. I'm here to protect you. If you listen to me, everything is going to make sense. Prepare the animus.
Are the blades prepared?
Right here.
And we've confirmed their provenance.
They belong to Aguilar. We're covered at his burial site.
What are these? Assume final preparations. Our regression, Andalusia, 1492. Record everything.
Arms ready.
is it?
I'm sorry, Carl. This is not the way I like to do things.
And don't do it.
Insert epidural.
What do you want from me?
Your past. Listen to me carefully, Cal. You're about to enter the Animus. What you're about to see, hear, and feel are the memories of someone who's been dead for 500 years.
Wait a minute.
You can't change what happens, Cal. Engage scanner. Status.
Scanning DNA chains. Searching for time frame. First memory match locked. DNA match identified.
Stay with it, Cal. Attempt synchronization.
We found Aguilar.
Synchronization achieved.
There. Commence regression.
How can fire undo stone? What kind of device could bring down the wall?
If the wall is breached, Helm's Deep will fall.
Even if it is breached, it would take a number beyond reckoning, thousands, to storm the keep.
Tens of thousands.
But my lord, there is no such force.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand. This night, the land will be stained with the blood of Hodge. March to Helm's Deep. Leave none alive. To war! There will be no dawn for men.
Frida.
Stand down, creature. And you may still survive this.
I have survived worse, woman.
Who are you?
I am Malekith, and I would have what is mine.
I'm sorry, my lord. The High Lord Turak wishes an audience with you.
You're not of the blood.
I am not.
Or even of our land. Where is it that you're from? No Westlander has ever set foot on our shores.
I left my home so long ago. I barely remember it.
And yet, you've moved quickly in our society, appearing seemingly out of nowhere in Surov's court. And it was you, was it not, who first saw the omens that led us to begin the return to our ancient homeland.
My lord, my eyes are too low to see such things. Only our Empress, in her court of the 9 moons, can see and know the omens for what they are.
With this, you've earned my notice. You may ask one thing of me.
The High Lady Suroth has a gift for you. I beg only you receive it in good faith.
I have brought you a gift, my lord. She was a novice, being trained at the White Tower. My soldats say she has more power than any demone we've seen in a very, very long time.
Collar her. She must be tamed.
Do you have any idea what these Shanchan do to women who can channel?
Collar her. She must be tamed.
How did you?
You cannot hurt me. Any pain a Suldam feels, her demone feels twice over, even to death. Your first lesson. The second lesson. The A-down cannot be removed. Not by you. I am Rena. What's your name? I will have to hurt you until you tell me. So, It would be easier if you just told me. Egwene. Well, that's almost nice. I see no reason not to let you keep it.
What is this place?
You're home. Rest, Egwene. Soon your training begins.
First came into being. They were elves once, taken by the dark powers, tortured and mutilated, a ruined and terrible form of life. And now, perfected, my Whom do you serve? Saruman.
Hunt them down. Do not stop until they are found.
You do not know pain, you do not know fear. You will taste man flesh! One of the halflings carries something of great value. Bring them to me alive and unspoiled. Kill the others.
Welcome back. Hope you got a lot from them. Really interesting, isn't it? I'm not sure how many I'll do. Maybe between now and I'm doing my recording to the release time, I might add some more. But there's a lot of interesting shows out there, and I hope you enjoyed them and inspired you to go seek them. The reason why I like inserting these clips is to offer that there are awesome shows out there, and you guys are welcome to track them down and watch them for yourselves, because I don't know what you're like, but I remember in many respects I enjoy watching shows and just devouring stuff and the whole binge sort of concept and stuff. And you know, it's not to sort of portray that I'm suffering or a victim or anything, but because I really want to offer this and that's why I offered Emotional Mastery Part 4, that society rewards the victim and false victim concept, because I don't ever frickin' play the victim energetically anyway. I just offer you the data variables of the components I go through, and that's why I talked about in the start about the attitudinal training, where society rewards the victim, but from an energetic level, going the victim is like a no-go, right? So that's why I also talked about the false Eieyani victims to draw in your sympathy and hack. And I talked about the false victims are trying to, people play that to hack into your heart through your compassion variable. And this is something cool that I worked out this last week, because I worked out, you know, a lot of people actually want to employ love, right? They want to express love, and the light and love thing, you know, it would be nice that is the way to go, that it is extremely vulnerable and stuff like that. So this is a self-healing concept that I worked out last weekend in a session, was that you can actually engage the light and love. Like, you want to actually express love, like pure love, because it is very nourishing on the body, and you want to give love to the world and the universe and stuff. But this is a cool thing. You do engage that, and it like does your energy field and puts you in a bubble. But then what you do, then you flip it and you be compassionate about yourself, right? So you give love to the universe, but you be compassionate to yourself. So you imagine like the toroid, like the external is the external love, but the compassion is the internal part of the toroid, that you're actually being compassionate of yourself, for being loving and nurturing to everything while going through all this crap and doing the right thing for people and maybe being burnt and all sorts of shit. So that when I was doing that, because say if I go through things and I do the right thing for people and get destroyed for it and all that, it's not bad to have compassion for yourself, because you were doing the right thing and you misunderstood, right? And what I found, when you internalize that love through self-compassion, it actually burnt through a lot of influences in my meridians and body and stuff that I just couldn't get underneath. So that's a method of employing love to the universe, but being compassionate on yourself to actually investing that brood love potency, right, to another level. So try that. Just try it in your meditations. Give love to everything else, but then be compassionate yourself about all the things that happen to you, and it will burn through a lot of that crap, right? It's a cool tool that you can employ as your state of love sort of tech. But yeah, so what I was getting to is I've always loved TV series and stuff, and I got into them when I started all this stuff just to try to freaking escape, right? Because you learn all these crazy, epic, disgusting truths, say the Eieyani Massacre and stuff. You just want to freaking, please stop, turn it off. So I started watching all these TV shows, and then it was just like, they were speaking it in another language and stuff. So, and it works on a subconscious, multi-dimensional level, but I love offering those clips to help people and share what I see that are teachings in other ways that are amongst us. And so yeah, it's this Eieyani concept. To me, it's been attempted to be told so much, but we've had no reference of it. So the reason why I share Ashiana stuff, even though I said, like in the last one, Echoes, I felt Stargate 12 was in Israel, not in France and stuff. And so I felt like the CDT tablets were corrupted by design, you know, from the pure source sort of expression going through all of the universe and stuff. That I honor her for her courage, and I just love tuning back into that 2002, 2001 era of how dark this world was after 9/11 and stuff, and having the courage to speak all this stuff. And you don't even get that from her, you know. And I've had the privilege of interacting with people that have been to a lot of those lectures and stuff, and you know how courageous it was to go them, and how aware those people were when I was freaking nothing, you know, just an IT geek, right? I just love that. And so my purpose in sharing her clips is to honor her, if that's where this truth came from. But I've just expanded upon it, and the other reason why I go back to that early time is, say from the field work, we're going out into the field and doing all these missions and stuff, and these variables are still at play. So it's like I'm going through the early eras of doing cleanup, because they're still factors, and there's a potential from my perspective that the latest stuff is corrupted without that stuff being done, because those frackers are very good, like they're very good path stealers and concept birthers to obfuscate their falsehood, to blame it on others and lead you astray and stuff, because that's what I've been through, you know, on a micro and a bigger level. Micro being my life, and the macro being the whole structure of things going on. That's where leaving no stone unturned and being very thorough. And plus there's a lot of people that come to this stuff, and that earlier stuff is a lot easier to digest and hear and stuff, and you just got to take every variable as a potential and a possibility and discern everything, like I've always said, right? So that's a bit of an attitudinal thing, or a perspective, like a foundation of where I come from, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just, you know, if we're dealing with billions of years and stuff, 20 years and stuff is nothing in that. And these bigger scale things are rolling out. They take a lot of time to organize. So I hope you got a lot from that Asher clip and these clips that I've weaved together and stuff. And I'm thinking of offering a second clip of some stuff that I haven't offered before, because it's been hell for the last 25,000 years. And one thing about the Eieyani Massacre concept is it didn't end 22326BC. It's been ongoing to this day. And I've had the privilege of interacting with a lot of people that are so smashed by it. And, you know, until I worked out the Asher stuff, I felt like I was being used as a carrot to lure these people in, which I know I have been. And because these sort of teachers who have been perpetrators of it, know exactly what's been going on, but they never, I don't feel they envisaged that we were going to break open this perspective to have it all cascade on them and stuff like that. So to me, we're in uncharted territory, and it's rich and it's nourishing. And I'll just show you the other image that I've shown about the unknown. Right? And I have been sharing a lot of my images on Instagram. If you want to follow that, I'm starting to share them, and I'll share these individual ones as well. But in my opinion, they never thought that we were going to break through. They thought they had it done. Right? As you can hear from Asher from 20 years ago. Right? So this is us going into the unknown and having the courage to entertain concepts and see what our foundation and bruise up, unlocking the dormant memories and stuff like that, to actually keep chipping away at that unknown in our each in our individual journey, but as a collective. So me offering my perspectives and talking about the missions and stuff of doing the actual field work of clobbering these fuckers in a massive way, and they keep sort of coming back, and we realize that they've got other angles that they're coming at. So we're coming from the blind, taking apart all their stuff, and then realizing they've got other aspects of their apparatus that still allow them to do stuff. So we just wait for violations, and violation is our asset, and then using that violation to take all their shit apart, not only for us but everyone else. Alright, so if you understand my session and my session structure, then your violation we work with. Alright, and everyone that comes through I've been doing a lot of this stuff with, and I really appreciate and honor those people that have come through, especially this last 6 months, and we've worked very hard to make enormous progress on the structure of the universe and stuff. But they've also been very rich in, as I said, without the context of the Eieyani over this last before the 2 years ago to the 2 years now and what's gone on. I'm going to talk about some of the client sort of stuff that's gone on, because I think they've been teachers to me of what's been done to people, because I said it's still ongoing to this day. These frackers were playing the long game, the 20,000 years plus millions of years to take over billions of years. We go back to the origin of, the universe, and when Metatron was compromised to actually co-create the portal to the Weezerdak that's been our bane of existence for 250 billion years and stuff, is that it's still ongoing. So now that I'm pretty solid with the Eieyani, it's been very clear that people are being brutalized by perpetrators, right, that have targeted them and hacked into them and stolen their codes and all sorts of shit, right? And I want to offer a bit of a rich content of what I've experienced as a practitioner, like trying to put people back together, or being quite blind because we're coming from the unknown. We didn't even know this stuff was going on, or the level of debauchery and frackery and just diabolical fucking shit done to people, right? Let alone they're weaponized at me and stuff to destroy me, right? Which has been why it's been so tough and that. But I feel like what we've uncovered this last 6 months and the victories we've had is they'll never recover from that, right? Their fate is sealed. They're just going to be dirty and nasty until that plays out, right? So this is, I'm going to try and impart a whole heap of concepts here that have come out through sessions that are pretty consistent across the board, because not only this for me to share to you publicly, it's to offer it to all you practitioners out there that listen to this, because a lot of these people I've had the privilege of interacting with are high-level practitioners, and it's been just such a monumental victory to come to all this understanding, guys. Right? I can't express that enough. You just might think it's a couple hours or stuff here. It's like we were never meant to know this stuff, right? Let alone understand all these mechanics and stuff. And it's just, that's why I say discovery is my joy, because it's like, let's go into the unknown and bust these frackers up and all this crap, right? So one of the big variables is that, as I said, the false victims who are actually perpetrators. Because what I've worked out, right, is these false victim perpetrators that are in amongst the community, they're probably in the DNA that they freaking created from mass raping you back then, right, as their prisoner. And that's that's a variable why the Stockholm Syndrome people have. They gravitate to these frackers because they've actually got our DNA from back then in them, in one of the lineages that we are drawn to, okay? So can you imagine that? These guys, they know what they've done to you. They've got components of you in them, in their physical body, and that's what, on another level, drives you towards them, right? Crazy, hey? So, that was just like, you know, it's not in your nature or my nature to do this sort of shit. Just to think that some beings out there could do this and seek to benefit and dominate with it, it's just mind-boggling, hey? Because you got to appreciate the code stealing, and that's a big concept I brought in. And as I said, like, I've had conversations with people about this, but it never really, I didn't even allow it to be a concept that's been done to me in my own perceptions and stuff. And then July 23rd, 24th, when I realized they've all been fracking stealing my codes, and I just, because I'm the freaking authority over my codes, I took them all back. And it was like a bit like Bill Murray in Ghostbusters when he's like takes the tablecloth when they're trying to take out Slimer, and the flowers are still standing, right? But the fabric is our codes, all right, that they have in their skin suit. So I took them all back from everywhere and everyone because I was so pissed. And that was when it was game on for me this last 6 months, because for the next month it was under mega attack to sort of just maintain myself, right? But then once we got a foundation, I really helped a lot of these people, and they came through, and I appreciate you guys for coming through. Once I learned this for myself, it was just endemic throughout the community. And this goes to you guys that was back in 2016, say when I went to Andrew Bartz's Living the Mystical Life Daily, there were variables there, code stealing and hacking into us all there, right? Because the people I've got around me, they can see through time and stuff and see what was done and all this, and see your DNA, and on levels of talent that have not been revealed in the public yet. These people that I know are so profound in their skill set. It's just, that's why I love sharing it. It's not about me, it's about what is out there, guys, that you just haven't seen yet. And when the coast is clear, they'll be out there, trust me. It just hasn't been safe, right? It's been very rich but very new country, and that unknown is, there's a lot of variables at play that still is going at us and stuff. So yeah, the code stealing was massive. And I know one of the allies we've got is the 1,000 dragons, where we upgrade a lot of the dragons to higher dimensional levels so they can go and claim the codes and stuff. So when you're doing the revocation, if you still embrace my revocation, you can engage it. And with the 10,000 Central Suns, 22D Mars, right? And do the revocation at 22D now, guys, all right, if you're doing it. But the 1,000D dragons, you can engage in your spirit team to go and claim your codes back, right? Because Earth, again, I remember when I had this session September 11 with someone, and it was like, we asked, we do qualify a lot with Earth, right? And ask her, and she's like, why haven't you done it already? Sort of thing. So we sent the 1,000D dragons to go and pick everyone up and that has stolen codes and dangle them and shake all their codes out and give them all codes. But it's not up for us to give your codes back. You've got to engage your reality authority and take them back, right? Revocation healing sessions and stuff like that. I do soul shard recovery and code recovery in my infinite sessions. So another crazy thing about the Eieyani Massacre, guys, is that these frackers, these main perpetrators, they've actually had trophies of us that they've maintained. So say imagine a copy or a trophy of our DNA, or like a mounting on a wall like a deer sort of thing. They've had us as trophies, like serial killers have, right? So that's how diabolical these frackers are, right? And you can claim it back, claim all this stuff back in your own, once you got the context of what's going on, you can take it back. I remember another thing so that was profound, just these they would go to the levels that keep it as trophy, because then you imagine if it's like 20% of us, then we're only running 80% and stuff, and so it's got a lot of our talents and codes in it from that era that they haven't allowed us to reclaim, because we didn't even know that they were doing this shit. Right? So another thing worked out, and one of the allies, and this is the same ally that we worked out, the graphene oxide was on Nibiru. Thoth was overseeing in his throne over there, just like in the Matrix pods. Eieyani aspects of us captured in physical form were still in pods that they were feeding off and harvesting our codes from and stuff, and so we just smashed that up, and they lost a lot of power over there and stuff, because another of the big missions I did, and this is outside the Eieyani, was that the Bank of International Settlements from the money system had a tether going to Nibiru. All the energy harvested in the money system was going to Nibiru, into the Phantom Matrix, and feeding off us all and stuff. So there was a lot of all this sort of feeding going on still over in Nibiru. So if you watched the Moon video where I talked about Maldek and they were weaponizing that against us and stuff, and Nibiru was a factor and stuff, this has all still been going on, guys. You might think it's fantasy and all that sort of stuff, but look at the world and what's been going on. And just imagine how an impossible conundrum this place has been to free and reveal and all this stuff, right? So I'm just going to shoot through a lot of these concepts and get them down, right? So one of the other things that have gone on, and this overlaps and it relates, is that our oversoul hacking, right? And it happened to me, but then it's been very consistent. And in one of the GSFs, we worked out something big, so I'm just going to show the image. And this is about the oversoul hacks. And again, I offer this because it's important that you know it, because you might not know it's being done to you. And I mentioned earlier on about the holographic tech and reading us and taking a copy of our energy body and using it in holographic tech, having all the stats about us, like our DNA types, our codes, all our relationships, and just like basketball cards, there were billions that were taken of us throughout time as well and stuff, and traded between 125 negative species and stuff. So that was, all that holographic tech was destroyed, and as well as giant mainframes that were sent to the sun that had our codes in it, right? And then we worked out through another GSF, these are all different people and stuff, or a couple of different people, is that a lot of these invaders, they had these chips in their heads that could have access to everyone's codes. There's a copy of everything in the mainframe, so they could have all our tech at will and stuff. They were all destroyed as violation of our free will, alright? But this is a big concept that perhaps I haven't expressed the right way for you to gain the concept of the scale of this stuff. But it's the oversoul hacks, and a lot of people are influenced by this and they don't even know it. So what the top thing is, say, the perception of me, and people have a accurate perception, but so if someone's oversoul is hacked, as well as all the other misguided shit, then I might be on my game, but the perception in you might be incorrect, because this influence is having a false positive reading, like inverting how it is to make you think that I'm wrong, to be polarized against me. And I'm using me because I know this stuff goes on, because it doesn't only just go the oversoul, it reduces your energy and your codes, because a lot of people I call it code raids, right? They're raided of their codes and their life force. So you go from being 70-80% of your life force and having all your talents rocking. Oversoul gets inserted, your energy gets harvested and your codes get raided, so you're in this chicken and the egg, like you can't get out of it. And then also all this black goo sort of shit gets put in your feet, and so your connection to Earth gets hijacked, so you're trapped. And then the people that can be the solution to you are wired incorrectly to see that their not the solution. They're actually the perpetrator when there's these perpetrators in the background working at a very high level on the multi-D that are doing this to a lot of people and puppeting a lot of people. So one of the recent GSFs is, and this was really cool, is we busted these guys, these invaders. They had millions and millions of people's oversouls, and they'd stolen them for a very long time. So they were trapped over on Phantom Earth and Nibiru and the Phantom Matrix, alright? And so we freed them all and liberated them. And what went on, if you imagine, you've watched sort of spy docos and stuff about CIA and stuff, is when the US embassies go down and get raided and stuff, they're all burning all the papers, like all the data and all their codes and all that sort of stuff. What went on is when we busted this up, they were like burning all their evidence of all, you know, that they'd done this on the multi-D, so you can track it back, alright? And so, yeah, this is being done to a lot. And then what happens is, if your oversoul gets hacked, then you're sort of being puppeting. But then this combines with the invader network that goes into the left shin, alright? And this is what goes on with people, because I've had it, I've watched them doing it to me. It goes into my spleen as well and stuff, and I just see them there, like, especially say if I'm gonna have a session the next day or something with someone that's very messed up and targeted via the invader network, and this is stuff going on because these guys have got the heads up that they might get free, and then they go after the people that are potentially freeing it. That's why it's been so tough for us guys, right? It's full war, and we've never even contemplated this because we've never given context, and they've been operating at a multi-dimensional level that very few can actually appreciate up until now, because they've been using our codes to operate in that space, right? So what goes on in the left shin is a DNA hack, the green fungus, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle DNA hacking stuff, and then the black goo sort of shit. It goes up the shin up into the lower lumbar and back, and it might reanimate through time. So even if you clear it, it reanimates because they're hitting you through time as well from many angles, okay? And then it'll go up your spine into your medulla, and it'll hack into medulla, and then it will hack into your crown as well, and then really co-opt people. And the mantis beings are hacking everyone's crown chakra and putting in false memories, and yeah, the mantis beings do psychic surgery on people, and they make you feel like the Stockholm syndrome, that they're your savior and stuff, when they've actually violated you and done surgery to you, inserted false memories and stuff. The mantis might be separate of this, but they work in partnership. These are part of 125 negative species that have been a bit like, my metaphor is the US military outsourcing to Blackwater, or these mercenary companies. These mercenary species are doing a lot of frackery to people as well, and they've been working in massive partnership with these guys, right? Who are the false Eieyani victims, / they were the worst perpetrators, right, in the community and stuff. And I've dealt with a lot of them, right? There's very few that I've dealt with that aren't part of that, okay? So I offer that for discernment. But this oversoul hack is very, very diabolical, because once you get disconnected from Earth, your code's stolen and your oversoul's hacked, it can be a very tough thing to get out of organically, and it's usually needing help. And so what I'm doing is sharing this with you guys, but also the practitioners, to know this mechanics is going on and to not allow it anymore. And as I said, my revocation goes back and tracks back any violation and removes them from the universe and stuff. So just ask yourself, guys, is this being done to you? Another big thing, and I'll just leave this here because it's all related, is that a lot of women, their womb is hacked and harvested. Like some of the people around me that I've said, their womb was, their pure energetic womb was stolen, and a false, nasty fucking piece of work was inserted. Also, into the wounds can be like these metal balls, like multi-dimensional metal balls. So you imagine a foreign object, like say if you get shot by a lead bullet, what happens to the body and the immune system is it tries to actually, you know, you might get infection around the womb with lead and shit because the body sees it as a foreign object, so they want to eliminate it, and the immune system kicks in to get it out. So what can happen in women's wombs is if these things are inserted, and there's been like squids sort of thing as well, and I've tried to help some people out that they get taken over by them and stuff and then turn on me and that. But say some sessions, and this happens to guys as well, is that I offered a clip from, or I may offer it now, right? There's a awesome clip about Krypton TV series about the planet where Superman came from, and this AI world-conquering being called Brainiac decided to take on Krypton, right? As I feel a lot of energy in my shoulder and stuff. So I might show this Krypton clip now instead of in all the big group. But there's this being that Brainiac, and he's got all these tentacles sort of thing. What it's been like for me is like a lot of you guys, if you're epic Eieyani sort of high priests or priestess from that era and stuff, if you've interacted with these perpetrators, then this squid shit gets put into you. And so when I go into a session, it's like I'm being attacked by these frackers because it's not your fault, but you're the Trojan horse to allow them to use you because they got you puppeted to be going at me. So this is what's been going on for me for the last 18 months around this perpetrator. When I've had sessions and I cleared people, then they raid the codes or they're hacking into you, right, through my sessions or outside of my sessions, because you go to them and engage with them in sessions to get all this stuff inserted into you. And then, say if you're wanting to break free of that, they see you as their property, and they justify going at me, and I'm being smashed, right? I was being smashed. So I might show you this Krypton clip, what it can be like for me in some sessions with all these people when it's not your fault, but you're being used as a Trojan horse to destroy me, alright? And it's happening to other people in the community, alright? So enjoy.
Precious gift. Freedom from your concerns and attachments. You have now glimpsed the infinite intelligence and seen the deliverance that I bring. Are you ready to serve? Are you ready to be the instruments of my will? You failed. How unsurprising.
I swear, I had every intention of carrying out your orders.
I know you did. If I sensed even for a moment that you were lying, you'd already be dead. You may keep your life. For now.
Your Eminence, there is one other matter I would like to address. The end of the Nova Cycle celebration.
What of it?
If appearances are to be maintained, you must extinguish the flame of rebirth tonight. The people will expect it, along with the customary benediction. Failure to do so would only raise questions.
Very well.
I will double your security detail.
There's no need.
The Red Shard. My new guardians, and loyal only to me.
What is that thing?
It's called a Black Mercy. It's a parasitic plant from another world. I discovered it within Valel's fortress. It creates an entire alternate reality in the mind of its host.
Who is its host?
My mother.
No, it can't be. Itasod died on Wegthor.
No. That was a clone.
Very interesting, isn't it? I'm just offering from my perspective what's been going on and what maybe other practitioners have no idea, because this is very nasty and high dimensional sort of shit. That's why I talk about being Crocodile, Star-Lord, Wolverine, Aladdin, Dundee. You know, I used to talk about of bringing the A game and saying it's alright to be badass, because you have to go in with your weapons ready to go, because you never know if you're going to get... This shit just comes at you straight away. You've got to be ready and defenses up and guard up. Because I can take care of it. Now I know where the source of it is all from, right? This invader network and these perpetrators I've been involved with, right? That do not want you, if you're a high-level Eieyani being that's here aware now, as a threat to them. Because you're going to see through their bullshit, right? So all this shit might be done to you, right? So don't worry, I'm not taking it personally, right? I'm wanting to offer you data so you know what's going on to you, because you're a victim of this shit. But we can't play the victim, because the victim is very disarming. We just got to level up and take ourselves to the next level when these guys can't reach, you know, 22D and stuff, right? So yeah, I hope that's a really good overview. One, and that victory we had with the recovery of the Oversouls, again, you've got to engage with this stuff and claim it back yourself. It's not up for us to do it. You're responsible for your journey. And I offer this stuff free, okay? Solutions free to help you, because if you win, we all win, alright? But again, a lot of this stuff might require sessions, and you might feel very diminished and very, like, this is the source of doubt, right? You might feel very uncertain and very polarized to say a solution. You've got to flip it and do the reverse matrix and do the contrarian view of yourself and realize that the solution might be the one you're most polarized against, okay? So I'm just going to move on. So this is the image of the invader network, and I've shown it many times, but all of these perpetrators in the community and stuff, they've been working very aligned, you know. There's been a conscious effort to never let you know all this stuff, right? And I'll just offer this. It's been very interesting for me and Rich, right, to have all this context and then see what goes on. Because I've actually had some people, you know, clients down the bottom that have been targeted, that haven't gone any of the paths I've gone. They've gone separate beings, totally independent, that I've never had interaction with. But the feeling I get and the attacks I get in the sessions and stuff from these people outside of them and stuff all before, it's got all the same frequency as, right? It feels all the same. So all I'm just saying is, see the black cloud above the bottom third, and I'll have this image up on my, I'll aim to have this up very shortly if it's not up by the time of the release, but it will be there soon. But this cloud is the organization behind all these frackers, right? This goes back to the Leviathan Force and all the stuff that Asher says, and the corrupted source from another universe, right? And we've had no idea, and they've been very structured and organized, okay? Because if I show you something else, this is a metaphor of the invader network, right? And these the red are the misguided healers and stuff, and then they're corrupting people to send them at people and stuff. So it's a very simple overview, but what's gone on is, particularly say for instance the individual that had the rainbow code stolen and stuff, this individual had allies around them also infected. So every time they get clear, then these allies would go at them, and you'd never know because they've had corruption codes in them where they're being Trojan horses and hacked into to actually derail these very highly advanced people. So they would never know where their codes are being stolen from and stuff like that. It's very, very sophisticated, and the network is very extensive. But I would just offer that if you're going through a lot of hardship and stuff, it's not really your fault, because perhaps you've been identified as a Eieyani threat, or, you know, align with pure source. That's the key, alright? So you're a threat to the invaders, because if they lose, they're done, and they're not going out without giving it all they've got to maintain their, you know, colonizing our planet and controlling it and wanting to own it and never let us have a chance to re-emerge, awaken, and doing all this stuff to us recently and trying to impose a real prison planet onto us. That's why I said it's go time, and I've been ready to go and totally derailed and stuff, and trusting people that are actually the worst perpetrators there are, okay, of the Eieyani Massacre when they're playing the victim, alright? So I'll just move on. So I hope this is quite rich. This is aimed at many people like you as an individual on many levels, whether you're a victim of it, you're a practitioner trying to deal with this stuff, not knowing that this scale of warfare is going on, or just, you know, an epic being aligned to this, and it's just confirming a lot what you know. As I said, there was clips from an awesome show called Wheel of Time that one of my allies gave the heads up to, so I'm grateful for them, right? I know they're an epic practitioner that, you know, I've done sort of healings and reciprocation from, and they helped identify the wiping tech. And another thing that goes on is they might set up a Frankenstein. The masculine could be like a Frankenstein of all different patchwork of all different males, not even yours, or some sort of craziness like that that's not your pure expression. So they might insert distorted energy body tiles or codes and stuff. This individual had like a netting as well, like a metal netting to limit them, so they went in aligned with themselves, and that can be on you as well. There's just so much stuff done to us that we've had no idea about. I also know that there's been like, you know, some people have been taken into sort of super soldier sort of stuff by the Galactic Federation. They might have this exoskeleton, like a multi-dimensional or meridian sort of going through your meridians and stuff, if you've been involved with that, or abductions as well and stuff. And you've been white, particularly like the frickin' mantis beings. And I love talking about how nasty those fuckers are, because they need to be seen, as the cockatoos agree. Hey guys. So what I'm going to do is offer another really cool clip from Asher. And they're galahs or cockatoos, right? That's really cool, hey. So if you imagine the Eieyani, we've been on the run ever since, like the surface had been under control. And so what I'm going to do is offer a clip that just talks about that from Asher's perspective, what happened after. She was in Greece at the time, so it's interesting around the Oracle of Delphi and stuff. And I hope that offers context of what it's been like. And I was looking to offer some clips from Britannia, awesome series about Druids and the Roman Empire and stuff, or as well as Vikings, about the pillaging that's gone on, and to offer a lot of concepts, because it's all about creating the Leviathan skin suit. So I've included some stuff from Lord of the Rings about Saruman, aka Thoth, creating a skin suit that, with the codes of everyone else, to be warriors to go and brutalize things. And this is another thing I've worked out about this skin suit as well, is they put siren tech in to lure the women out to be breeders. So, you know, there's women being sirens, but from my perspective, they created Eieyani Leviathan force with the siren tech that would lure the women to want to create babies in the skin suit and breed with the Anunnaki sort of thing. So that's another variable. But this clip, with that context of being on the run and the surface under control of after this 25,000 years ago sort of thing, I think it will add more value and stuff. So enjoy it, guys. I'll see you on the other side.
When we do this grid work, we are here on a mission, we are here on a purpose. The purpose we are here to do is to bring back the Christos frequency as much as possible. We are here to assist in healing areas of the planetary grids that have been purposely and intentionally distorted and used and misused. Right now, we're in a very special place. We're in a very special place because this place, long ago, was called Ionia. This whole place was called Ionia. Ionia stretched all the way from up into the areas of France and Italy, all the way down through the island nations through here. The civilization called the Ionian civilization was a massive pre-Atlantean civilization. It existed during Atlantis and before Atlantis. It was a civilization that was created by the root races and the cloister races of the angelic human 12 tribes. Tribe 5, the guardians of Stargate 5, which is located right under the Vatican in Rome, Italy. They were the ones who populated the Ionian nations. They were the guardians of Stargate 5 and all of its territories. They were here on the Christos realignment mission. They were here trying to help heal the planetary shields and bring back the D12 Christos imprint here. The Ionian people were the people that became the original Greek people. The Ionian people became a very mixed peoples because Ionia became a haven. The areas we're in right now and the areas that we'll see on this tour became a place of exile. Now, if we go back to the Atlantean period, before the 9558B flood, there were a few things that took place in history. We'll start with 25,500 BC. It was a period of time when races called the Anunnaki races invaded here, and they put up something called the Nibiruan Dyadic Crystal Grid setup. They anchored it at Stonehenge in England, which is Stargate 11 area, and they began to progressively infiltrate this area, the planet, and put in crystalline technologies that work like microchips. They put in these crystalline technologies to get control of the planetary Templar, which is the planetary grid system. Now, that invasion began in 25,500 BC, but the Guardian races were still strong here, and they were able to squelch some of the outer level of the rebellion. So civilization continued, where you had it polarizing. You had the ones working the anti-Christos agenda being directed by two different groups. One, what are called the Anunnaki races, and the other, what are called the Draconian races. In other workshops, we got into exactly who these people are, in which there's a whole bunch of different families in both of them. So I won't go into that again. If you want to know it, it's in, it's in Voyager's book, has a lot of that, and there's other books that have it in too. Now, we had the 2226 BC, fall of the last stellar activation cycle, where it stopped halfway through and we had a partial pole shift because it was stopped halfway through. Then we had 10,500 BC, Luciferian conquest, when more of the nasties came in, and they put wormholes here, which we really didn't need any more of, and they're off the coast of Florida, by the way, if anybody wants to know. That's why the Bermuda Triangle does its thing. After that, there was the 9,558 BC flood. The flood in the Bible, the Great Deluge, well, it was orchestrated. It was done on purpose. It was done as part of the Luciferian covenant. It was orchestrated. It had the use of spaceships to help it, because we're not alone in this universe. The fallen angelics tend to drive spaceships, at least the ones in the lower densities do. So, all of this stuff, ETs, the whole thing, all of it is part of the same story, and we need to begin to understand this. Part of the same story happens to do with our history as it's come up. Right now, we're sitting on a place. There was a place where the Grail lines. We call them the Grail line humans, which were the original, the real humans, not the Leviathan hybrid humans, not the ones that were trying to take over the planet that didn't belong here, that were only invited here to try to help them, and then they tried to take over the hospital. But the real humans who carried the templates, the DNA templates of genuine humans, go with the planetary grids. They match the mathematical coding in the planetary grids. We were the ones who operated the Templar. Because of that DNA connection to the planetary grids, we had the codes that could open and close the stargates on this planet, and anything that wasn't organic to this planet didn't have those codes, so it couldn't use the gates. That's why, since Atlantis, this race has been progressively infiltrated, and there has been forced interbreeding that has taken place here, as certain of the Leviathan hybrid race strains tried to build a master takeover race that would have more and more of the codings that went with the planetary stargates, so they could, when this time came, have enough of the coding in their bodies to run the Templar the way they wanted it to. Now, we've gotten into, in some of the other workshops, what they're trying to do. It has to do with black holes and phantom matrix and pulling this planet into a black hole system. We have the science stuff on that, so I won't go into it in this workshop. But I want to talk about here, while we're here, a bit of the Ionian history. The Ionian people, which were originally the Greek people and the Roman people. It was before the people that are known as Romans now came. They weren't the first people there. The first people were the 12 tribe, what were they called? Ionatu or something. It's in the book. I don't have to remember that tribe 5 were the people that were settled here. Ionatu Attila, I think. Ionatu Attila? Yeah. Yeah, okay, I found it in my brain. All right, the originals were called the Ionatu Attila. Now, yeah, Attila. And that's where you get the italic races and those kind of things. They were the original peoples here. They were part of a large group of people called the angelic human 12 tribes races. There were 12 tribes with very specific names, each one of them assigned to be the guardians of one of 12 stargates on the planet. All right, they were guardians of Stargate 5. Now, what happened in Atlantis after the 10,500 BC Luciferian conquest, areas of Atlantis progressively got more invaded by the Leviathan races, and the Grail line humans were being killed. They were being executed. They were being hooked up to horrendous technologies to try to literally read their cellular memory to get the knowledge right out of their bodies and that kind of thing. There were horrible things being done to them. In order to preserve the race lines, because they were going to become extinct on the planet, which means the Leviathans would have taken over the planet completely, they broke up and moved away from the areas that they were originally supposed to be in to be the guardians of the stargates they were assigned to. Now, the people that ended up coming to Ionia were the people that were guardians of several stargates that were in Atlantis. One of them is Stargate 11. Now, in the other workshops we've given, we've talked about where Atlantis was. All right, we've talked about the fact that England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales right now are part of what was northern Atlantis that was called Lohas Atlantis. That's where Stargate 11 is. Down in the area of Bermuda, the Bermuda Islands, where Stargate 3 is, that was an area called Nohasa Atlantis. This was all a continent once upon a time that was in what's in the Atlantic right now. And down in the area of what's called Florida right now is a place that was called Brua Atlantis that had Stargate 2, which was the control gate for the rest of the gates on this planet. It was called the Grual Point, or the Holy Grail, the Holy Grual. That was the place that if you got control of that, you could control the other stargates on the planet from it. When things were getting bad after the Luciferian conquest in 10,500 BC, the races from other areas had run up to Stargate 11. They had crossed over and they were hiding. There was a whole cluster of them. They were up with the Celtecs. The Celtecs were one of the Grail line races that were up there. The Druidecs, which originally were from Bermuda area, which was Stargate 3 area, ran up there. So everybody's hiding up in Lohas, and then they invaded Lohas. So everybody ran down, right? It was like, where can you run if they won't get you? All of the races that had begun, it started with Lemuria even before. The ones from Lemuria, when Lemuria sunk because it was invaded and there was a whole bunch of mess that went down, the Grail lines from Lemuria, which were they were part of Gate 12 guardianship, because what's called Q-Site 12 is over in what's now Kauai. They moved the remnants of the Mua Lemurian races over into Lohas Atlantis. And then when Lower Atlantis was getting invaded, the good guys, the Grail Lions, were moved all the way up. So everybody's stuck up in the area of England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Then they started doing stuff with the climate, where we ended up with ice ages and things happening up like there. That happened first. There was one around the 22,000, right after the 22,326 BC mess. A bunch of them had to come back down because they had ice, and then it started to thaw again, because you can make the ice caps melt or freeze depending on what you do with the crystal technologies that are in the grids. There are people that actually control our biosphere right now, and we don't even know it. But anyway, the people, the races, the Grail Line races that were trying to escape the progressive infiltration and invasion of the Leviathan force ended up in a little ball up in England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales area. And then they were invaded very fully during the Atlantean period by certain Anunnaki-based groups, and they ran and they spread out. But most of them came down to the next closest relatives, which were the ones that were hanging out and still had a stronghold at Stargate 5. So they came into Italy and they came into Greece. Well, they came into Italy first in those areas, but progressively the Leviathans moved down and chased them, and it chased them out into the islands. So they ended up, very many of them, holding the grids. They were able to hold the Greek islands for quite a while. They were in Cyprus, they were in Paxos, they were these little clusters were able to hold together and hold the grids. When we go to see the Minoan ruins, we'll talk a little bit about where they fit into all of this, because those cultures were originally started by the Grail Line races from Atlantis, who were on exodus from Atlantis.
Welcome back to Amplify the Echoes of Our Souls, Ancient Truth 13, 22326BC Eieyani Massacre, Part 1, possibly. But interesting, isn't it? And perhaps you've got some sort of appreciation of the Eieyani Massacre and stuff, but it's absolutely still ongoing to this day, guys. And some of the even more diabolical stuff is some women. Also, a lot of stuff has been going into their dream time, and it's interesting. I'm remembering this now. Is that, yeah? Oh, this is a big thing. I forgot. Interesting. So, I've dealt with really amazing women that have had a lot of targeting going on and messed up by these invader perpetrators in our community, and they've been in trusting scenarios and stuff and being given advice, and shout out to them, you know, one of them in particular. And you know, a lot of people in, like women particularly, in relationships and stuff, and what's been going on is their partners have been walked into to actually gestate an Anunnaki soul in this life, right? So their husbands have been grinded down and partners have been grinded down to actually leave them vulnerable to walk in those, you know, sacred times between partners to create children and stuff like that, to bring in souls now, right? And this is another thing about the children and stuff. It's interesting, I'm getting all this now, is that what I worked out also this week is that, you know, and I've got some of the images about being prisoned, and the metaphor of the Wheel of Time is being in dungeons and stuff and on slabs and just violated so badly and stuff, is that I've talked about the stigma tech being put into bodies and stuff, and so we're being detected through time and stuff like that. So some of the people have been through horrific 25,000 years journey of very, very brutalized on the sexual front by men, you know, relentlessly and stuff, and stalked through time and all that sort of stuff. And the will in the certain women has been to terminate the pregnancies when they're being tried to be done to them. And I know I talked about a couple of Indian goddesses in, I think, GSF 7, right? And one of them, I know, they got pregnant twice this life, and they ended their pregnancy then through their own will and choice, right? So this is a very possible potent technique that women can do if that sort of scenario comes up, right? But I also know this is, I've dealt with a lot of people that they've been under so much threat that they've had very negative entities trying to walk into their soul this life. And I know, say if I got this, is one of the things done to sort of the Eieyani in prison that had a lot of will. They were trying to break their consciousness down through torture and violence and stuff, to actually break the will of the individual with their body, to actually get consciousness to walk in and take over the body so that they could breed with them and swell and stuff like that. You name it, it's been done, right? And so a lot of people are aversion to violence and stuff, and all that can be triggering of all this carnage that's gone on in the past, because our past is so disgusting and brutalized by these invaders and stuff. And that's why, you know, I'm feisty and I'm badass and stuff, because I know what's gone on, and I know what's going on to people in the community and stuff, right? So what do we do about that? Do we buckle and go submissive, or do we frickin' rise up and, you know, push back and take our sovereignty and all that sort of back? So my attitude has been that, and, you know, give as good as they get, right? Do no harm but take no shit. So I haven't gone on the offense at all. I have never done anything violent, but these code raiders and false victims, if they've done violative acts to actually get the codes, what they've gotten without permission, and they've violated people, and so when they're taken back, they play the victims because they assume it's their right to have other people's tech because they've gotten away with it so long, which is absolute freaking poppycock, alright? Poppycock bullshit, okay? So don't underestimate your authority over your codes and this reality if you're aligned with the pure earth. Because one of the big victories we had was Earth. Her consciousness was actually trapped inside the planet. It wasn't Venus bullshit earlier in the year. It was Earth, right? So, yeah, we got her free and she's able to connect to us. But you can see us as representatives of her on the surface, because she wasn't actually able to actually see what was going on, right? So I've got a lot to say, and a lot of the missions and stuff. What I'll just say is, as I said earlier, we've got some awesome allies out there we can embrace as part of our spirit team, and you are the authority over what goes on, and so you need to consciously choose to invite them in, right? So there's the 10,000 central suns, like I said, the structure of the pure source universe, which what I realize is what I'm working on, right? And so it feels like tracking everything back, that corruption at the moment source gestated itself. That feels like a foundational level that we can get to, because it's ironic that we never came to that in the last 18 months, because it wasn't in alignment with that individual, because they're an invader, alright? And I'm getting a bit sore sitting down so long. That's why I'm wriggle pot. But yeah, so there's the 10,000 central suns that you can work with, and they're badass. They've got some serious kick to them. So I've been doing a lot of earth planet killings, and I've been, basically they're my arms, right? Clearing the air and blasting the earth with the 10,000 central suns energy. The 1,000 dragons to go and collect the codes back, they're out there. So riding the 1,000 dragons, right? Collecting codes back. There's 22D Mars, okay? He's up there and you can engage with him as part of the team. And Metatron's a touchy subject for many, but for me, from a strategic point of view, instead of wiping him away, that's what happened in August 18th, and there was a lot of effort to derail that. And it was the infiltrator that was doing that, right? On top of the others, because they're all aligned. All these people I've dealt with, they're all aligned, right? Plus more. But yeah, the Oversoul Metatron, what I felt was like, how about we heal something but never thought that they could be healed, or these invaders, and let's put a cat amongst the freaking invader pigeons and see what happens. So that was an unexpected variable and victory. So the Oversoul Metatron is on redemption sort of thing. He has a lot of shame for what's gone on, but you know, this sort of stuff gone on is so masterful and it's frackery. It's just, don't underestimate what we've been up against, guys, and what it has been like. And maybe this is all fantasy and stuff, you know, but maybe one day you'll get, oh my god, it's affected me, and then you realize like what we've been up against when it's been so raw. It's like going into the wild west of spirituality, trying to clean up this crap and get it all back in alignment with the universal will, source's will. So yeah, I've had a lot of victories, a lot of GSFs, like I said, 25 to 30, and there's been a lot of effort to discredit me and stuff, and it might have, if you've been across me for those last 6 months, it might have been weird what I was putting out. I know some very specific people with very epic talents were very messed with and stuff, and so a lot of people that don't know they're messed with, like I said, the Oversoul stuff, a lot of what I've tried to get out is the mechanics of what's been done to me, because it's been done to you, and I can show you, everyone I've shared it with, it's like, this is what's been going on to you, and now we've gotten to the bottom of it. But I don't hack and I don't insert all that shit into the spine and medulla and oversouls and stuff, so I didn't even realize that was going on, and that's where I've got a lot of pushback with people, because they don't even know they've been compromised and stuff. And so I shared that at a great risk, and even when I was very beaten up in a lot of those recent few month videos, the last 6 months, it was just an effort to try and impart what's been going on, because I don't really have a lot of allies, if you haven't noticed, right? Most people, it seems like they just can't wait to have a falling out, and I've worked so much and I've done so much. So these last 2 years I've done so much for a lot of people, and a lot of you guys have invested a lot in me, and I'm very grateful, and I thank you for allowing me to continue doing this, right? It's not been easy, and I love investing time and getting people healed and helping them getting massive aha moments. So if you haven't had a session for a while, or you have and you've come out the other side, you should go back and listen to the audios. I invest a lot in them, and I do my best in them. They're the biggest investments I do. Like if I'm doing 6, 7, 8, 9 hour sessions with people, the answers are in there, and you just have to put the effort in, right? But I've also started giving out like an audio of how to do my pranic healing for people, because this has been tough. It's been really epic. So I hope you guys put the effort in. It's not up for me. It's like, you got to take responsibility for yourself. If things are tough, then push back and get onto your own self-healing and see what happens. If you've got that ally, like I've always said, it's very nourishing that you can disarm your defense when you trust that you have a technique that you can overcome all this stuff, right? So I was going to do a bit of an overview of all the GSFs, but I think this is going to be very long, and I hope this is a very rich, a pre-December solstice 2023. Crazy that it's end of 2023. Hey, I hope this last 6 months since the last solstice has been very rich, especially if you've been a part of my journey, and you've allowed me to be a part of yours. And if you've been with me ever since the end of 2020, 2021 stuff, or the end of 2021, 2022 stuff, these last 2 years of my growth and what I've come to appreciate and my expansion, I've hoped they've been really rich for you, because as I've appreciated, this stuff was probably never meant to be found. So just imagine how precious and rare you are. And as I said in one of the videos, like, couple of videos back, is that you can't underestimate how precious you are to Earth, okay? That we've been able to navigate in this reality up against all we've been up against. So rare amongst the human family right now, how precious we are for what we know and how much has been done to prevent us having all that we can have and stuff. And like just the sheer will of people that I've had the privilege of interacting with, of all the shit they're going through and how amazing beings they are in spite of it. It's why I have a lot of hope and I sense potential, because if I've only dealt with the few that I've dealt with and seen what I've seen, there's just so many out there just waiting to break out and stuff. So I just really hope this is a potent ally to this solstice that's coming. And if you're in the future, this Eieyani teaching and imparting of that is an awesome ally of you questioning a lot in your journey in the community and stuff. That sure, there's a lot of people messed up and they're victims of it, but then there's a lot of high-level beings that should know this, that have never wanted you to know it, right? So well done you finding me, this truth needle in a haystack of bullshit and poppycock and falsehood. And if you consider me truth, it's a privilege and an honor, and I really thank you for your time and trust in me to be here now. And I hope this is an ally to launch you into the next year or wherever you are in your journey, if this is in the future. Because as dark as it may have seemed, guys, we've come through an amazing rite of passage, and to still be in honor of Earth, our truth, and our fellow man, the way you probably are if you are here, and seeking to be an expression of the epitome of society, of what I felt spirituality was meant to be about. I haven't found it so far. I hope you, as I will be, doing as much to make that a reality for our future to experience. So I really appreciate you for investing your time and being here, and I thank you for all that you've had to endure. And until next time, guys, I really hope this is potent, and we'll see where we go, alright? So stay strong, stay lit, stay badass, stay bratty, honor your truth, and hold yourself as number one, because you might be the one we've been waiting for. Okay, lots of love, guys. Andre out. Bye for now.
Heading for the city lights, 975. We sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl. All rejoicing in the world, check me now. We can
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.